Hello there, welcome back to the channel. It's great to have you here. I am Andy, and today we will continue with the reading of the book What is Spiritism from Mr. Allan Kardec. We were going through an exchange between Mr. Kardec and a person he calls visitor. Let's continue. The visitor says, "So, in your opinion, criticism is useless and public opinion doesn't count for anything?" Kardec replies, "I do not regard criticism as an expression of public opinion, but as a personal opinion that may be mistaken. Look at history, and you will see how many masterpieces were criticized when when they first appeared, but that did not keep them from being masterpieces. When something is bad, all the praise in the world will not make it good. If Spiritism is an error, it will fall by itself. If it is a truth, all the diatribes in the world will not render it a lie. Your book will be a personal appraisal from your own point of view. True public opinion will decide whether or not you're right. Thus, people will want to examine the matter for themselves. And if they realize that you were wrong, your book will be ridiculed, like the one you published not too long ago against the theories on the circulation of the blood, on vaccine, etc. But I have forgotten that you're going to treat the issue ex professo, which means that you have studied it from every angle, that you have seen all that is to see and have read everything that has been written on the matter, that you have analyzed and compared all the different opinions, that you were in the best position to observe for yourself, that you have dedicated your waking hours to the subject for years. In other words, that you have neglected nothing to arrive at the truth. You must believe that you have done so if you are a trustworthy person, because only one who has done all those things has the right to say that he speaks with full knowledge of the facts. What would you think of someone who claimed to be a critic of a literary work, but who had no knowledge of literature, or of a painting, but who had never studied art? It is only logical that critics must understand, not superficially, but in depth, what they are discussing. Otherwise, their opinion is worthless. To disprove a calculation, one must oppose it with another calculation. But in order to do so, one must know how to calculate. Critics must not limit themselves to saying that a certain thing is good or bad. They must justify their opinion with a clear and categorical demonstration based on the very principle of art or science. How can they do so if they do not know what such principles are? Could you evaluate the qualities or defects of a machine if you did not know anything about mechanics. No, you couldn't. Well, then, since you know nothing about Spiritism, your opinion would be no more valuable than your opinion about that machine. At each step, you should be caught in your ignorance, because those who have studied Spiritism would see right away that you are not knowledgeable on the matter, which would lead them to conclude either that you are not serious or that you are acting in bad faith. In either case, you would be exposing yourself to being disavowed, which would hardly be flattering to your self esteem. The visitor says, "It is precisely to avoid such a pitfall that I have come to ask you to allow me to watch a few experiments." Kardec replies, "And you think that that would be enough for you to be able to speak ex professo about Spiritism? How could you comprehend such experiments, let alone judge them, if you haven't studied the principles upon which they're based? How could you rightly or wrongly evaluate the result of a metallurgical experiments for instance, if you don't even know the fundamentals of metallurgy? Allow me to say that your plan is exactly the same as if, in spite of knowing neither mathematics nor astronomy, you were to say to one of the members of the observatory, 'Sir, I would like to write a book on astronomy, and what is more, I would like to prove that your theory is wrong. But since I don't know the first thing about the science, I need you to let me look through your telescope once or twice. That would be enough for me to know as much about it as you do.' It is only by extension that the verb to critique becomes synonymous with the verb to censor. In its proper meaning and according to its etymology, the term to critique means to judge, to appraise. Hence, a critique may be approving or disapproving. To critique a book is not necessarily to condemn it. Those who undertake the job should do so without any preconceived ideas. But if they have already condemned the book in their minds before having even opened it, their appraisal cannot be impartial. Such is the case with the majority of those who have spoken about Spiritism. They formed an opinion based solely on the name, and they proceeded like a judge who passed a sentence without having taken the time to study the documentary evidence. The result was that their judgment was incorrect, and instead of being persuasive, they arose scorn. As for those who seriously studied the subject, most changed their mind, and a good number of adversaries became adherents once they realized it was something different from what they had thought. The visitor replies, "You speak of the appraisal of books in general. Do you really think it is materially possible for journalists to read and study everything that passes through their hands, especially if it deals with new theories that require their in depth verification? That could be like requiring printers to read all the books that they have, I'm sorry, all the books that leave their presses. Kardec says, in light of such judicious reasoning, I have nothing to answer except that if one does not have the time to do something conscientiously, one should not get involved with it. And that is better to do only one thing well than 10 things badly. The visitor says, please don't think that I arrived at my opinion lightly. I have seen tables turn and produced raps. I have seen persons who were supposedly writing under the influence of spirits. Nevertheless, I'm convinced that charlatanism was involved.